Hey guys, welcome back. I'm here to tell you today about the best pet you could possibly have. When I talk about the best pet, I'm talking about an African house snake. You've probably seen some of the biggest reptile YouTubers talking about these guys, and there is definitely a reason why. These guys are such smart, inquisitive little snakes, and now that I've had the chance to work with them for a little over 2 years now, and we've probably put out 7 or 8 clutches of the African house snakes, I've truly come to love these animals. They are like a little python. This is Selena. This is one of our breeder females, and she's just chilling here. This is the size of a corn snake, but she's acting like a python. They got cool little face masks that make them look awesome. You can see that little eye stripes they got there. They get a red color. Now she is a Cape house snake, and these guys come from South Africa. I can't say enough about them, but let's show you why they are the best pet snake. This is a KZN red. So KZN is a locality. So different from a morph, but it's going to make the color of the animal a little different. So they will flare up as well, almost like a crested gecko would. So when they are not stressed, at ease, they'll be a much brighter color than they are if you have them stressed out. So once you get to build a relationship with your animal, they're going to be more brightly colored more often for you. Other things I love about them is the variation in patterns. So you can see on Selena here, she's got what's almost like a conda pattern from like a hognose steak. She's got red spots up and down her, and again, she's a KZN red. We'll show you some normals here shortly, but just amazing looking snakes. And with the KZN reds, they turn this red as they grow, almost like a brick red in age, and it gets deeper and deeper red as they get older and older with each shed, almost like a desert ghost or a hypo. Animals like that in the ball python world, the morphs that you would see get better with age. This is what your normal's going to look like. And this guy's a little bit different in pattern. You can see he doesn't have the conda-like that we saw in the last one. A little bit of blotchiness, but you see more of a stripe going all the way down the sides. So there's a lot of variation in their pattern. This is Lucifer. He's just a very large adult normal male. And this is the biggest I've seen one get. And you're talking, 3 feet long, maybe a little over 3 feet, and about as thick as my finger, maybe a little bit thicker. So these guys don't eat anything more than a small adult mouse, hopper mouse, for the entirety of their lives. And this will make your food bill that much cheaper. And it's easier to store the food. You don't need as much space. This is Mango. She is a T-positive albino that we hatched out last year. So she's about a little over a year old. So you can see kind of a size difference too with age. So if she's a year, Lucifer there was full grown, which you'll probably see that size around 2 to 3 years. So beautiful morph. It lightens it up. It's not really a true albino per se. It almost looks like a hypo, where it gives them like a peach kind of color. Now these look very similar to the T-negative albinos, which we do have those as well, but I only have babies at the moment, so they're a little bit harder to see. But the main difference is the pupils of their eyes are going to be black on the T-positive, red on the T-negative. But maybe a little bit more reds coming in on the T-negative, but it's not that much different. But beautiful morphs. As you can see, she's got that kind of conda pattern, like the hognose going all the way back, and just a much lighter color. And on top of the albinos, they've got hypo, a blue-eyed, it's almost like a blue-eyed leucistic, but picture like a purple snake with blue eyes. You've got bushveld albino, which I'll show you the comparison. Hopefully the light doesn't wash it all out. But the bush-veld albino is almost like a T-negative albino, where those eyes are orange though. So you could kind of see the difference between the two. These two are probably pretty close in age. The bush-veld albino probably not quite being a year old, somewhere around 6 to 12 months. But she is something we picked up from Bushveld Reptiles, which is run by Warren Klein. And he is, I believe, selling these here in the United States now. But awesome little animals. Again, you could see on this Bushveld albino, it's more so got that stripe going down the full length of the body on the side there, rather than the conda pattern you see on this. Just some more of that pattern variability. So on top of the morphs that can change colors, these guys have a ton of localities. They're found all over Africa, essentially. And for the Cape House snakes, you're going to have that brown, like I showed you Lucifer. The KZN reds we looked at already, those get that brick red as they grow in age. Now there's Uganda greens, and which are beautiful snakes. There are Kenyan reds, which are a different red than the KZN red, but beautiful in their own right. There's black house snakes. They look like black Mexican king snakes. And from what I understand, the Cape House snakes like these are more handleable than the other localities that I'm telling you about. The KZNs are a type of Cape House snakes, so those are handleable as well. But when you get into the blacks, the greens, there's, I believe it's an emerald colored one that's almost like a deep green, but those all, I cannot vouch for the handleability of these guys. Like you see here with the capes. These guys are awesome. I have heard people tell me that they are not the same. They don't have the same temperament. They don't have the same handleability. So make sure you do your research if you are going to go into a different locality. So this species as a baby is very, very small. I'm talking the size of a worm. So these guys just hatched out last week, for example. You can see they are no longer than my finger and maybe the thickness of a pencil. So something you've got to be careful with when handling, but doesn't mean you can't handle them. As you can see here, it's kind of more of a case of they hold you rather than you hold them. Now once they get bigger, a little bit bigger than this, probably about 3 to 6 months old, you're in the clear. They're just like a normal juvenile corn snake, I'd say. But you can see these guys here haven't even had their first shed yet, and that's a normal KZN and a T positive KZN albino. One good thing that comes with small size though is small housing, which means you're going to have a smaller setup fee. So for me, I keep mine on aspen bedding. You can keep them on other things, but I do see mine use them to burrow. I will see little burrow holes. So I try to give them 2 to 3 inches of substrate depth just so they can burrow underneath and create those burrows. These guys, they don't really have they have a large humidity range, let's just say. I don't want to say they don't have one, but again, they live all over Africa, parts where it's arid, parts where it's more humid and tropical. So typically you will probably be able to keep them whatever your room temperature or room humidity is. Now for temperature, these guys, I've heard of people keeping them at 80 degrees room temperature, just an ambient with no hot spot. I did this for a little while with some of the babies. I did find that having a hot spot and a higher temperature, I did see a better food response out of the babies. That being said, when it comes to eating, the babies are a little bit tougher to get started, and I feel like a lot of times that's just because they are so small, and even a pinky mouse is going to be bigger than them. But if I typically get a small pinky mouse, frozen thawed or live, they will take it. Now the babies are a little bit harder to take frozen thawed, and I have had it where they go back and forth between frozen thawed and live as babies, but my adults, they all take frozen thawed, no problem. And the other nice part about it is you don't have to sit there and make it look like it's moving. It doesn't have to be heated up like a python, because they do not have the heat pits. They are not pythons as much as they act like them. You can pretty much thaw out your mouse, get it somewhat warm, room temperature, set it in the enclosure, close it up, walk away, check on it again in a little while, and you're going to come back and it's going to be gone. So feeding is really easy. It's not a long, drawn-out process. Live, even easier, same thing. Drop it in, walk away, come back, check on it, and it's more than likely going to be gone. Some of my tougher eaters, I have had to get started on some ASF pinkies, but to this point, I haven't had any problem switching them over to mice eventually. With that small size, again, is small prey. So you've got the pinkies. They'll start out on the very small pinkies. Somebody call them red hot pinkies, which are, your 1 to 3 grams. Definitely start them there, or pinky parts. I've never had to do pinky parts for them. They don't seem to have a problem. They'll do a pinky once every 2 weeks for maybe the first 4 weeks, and then after that, they're on to pinkies every week. And you'll feed pinkies until they're over a year old. My 2.5-year-old adult male who's in shed right now is still on fuzzy mice only. Now, the biggest you'll probably have to feed these guys is maybe a small adult mouse. All of my adults are on hopper mice once a week, with the exception of Lucifer, who you saw is huge, and he's on a bit of a diet, so he's eating a hopper mouse once every other week at the moment. But again, very small, cheaper prey, less expensive prey, less storage. If you are keeping frozen thawed in the freezer, it isn't going to take up as much space. Let's talk about housing. So these guys, you could probably start out in a 5 to 10 gallon tank, no problem. You're going to want to give them hides. I start mine out in a little clear Sterilite tub. I believe it's the 2-quart tub, and I fill it with aspen bedding. I put a water bowl in there, about a 2.5 or a 4 to 5 ounce water bowl, something like that. One of your small, sample cups you'll get from free samples at the grocery store, something about that size. I give them a piece of cork flat bark to have a hide under and have something to kind of rub against if they need to shed. But other than that, they are very, very simple as babies. Now, as they get older, you see somebody Lucifer size, you're probably going to want to get him into a 40 gallon. I keep him in these ARS 70 tubs you see here, which he has a substantial amount of space in that, more than he would probably ever need. I, again, haven't had any trouble with these guys when you change the size of their enclosure where they go off food like a ball python might. So another perk of them as a species is they are very, very good eaters. And once you see them eat, once you see them eat off the tongs, you won't forget it. They grab their prey and they wrap it like 4 or 5 times. They mean business for sure. When it comes to breeding and your females, they will not go off food when they are breeding. So I've had females eat through the entire pregnancy, lay eggs, and eat immediately after laying them. So these guys are not affected by being gravid at all. I treat them the same way I do my ball pythons, where I will take the male, put him in with the female, and allow them to pair in the female's tub. Keeps those pheromones from the female in there, and that's just how I've always been taught to do it. If you guys know why we do it that way, put it down in the comments below, but I don't have a good reason why I do it that way. If you're having trouble, go ahead and try putting your female in with the male. I've tried it with stubborn ball pythons before. It hasn't worked for me, but maybe it'll work for you. So these guys, I'm surprised they're not more popular than they are already. In my opinion, they make one of the best beginner snakes. They are very forgiving because they have such a wide range in the wild with temperature and humidity. They're forgiving on that sense. They don't require a lot of space. The food they require is very small, and they will take frozen thawed, no problem, once they reach that adulthood age. Let me know what you guys think of house snakes down in the comments below. You're not going to find a better snake, I promise you. Please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell down below, and we will see you guys on the next video. Bye.